In today's video, I want to walk you through 5 things I wish I knew as a beginner cyclist that would make me faster, stronger, more safe, more comfortable, and help me improve on the bike. And this is tip number 1. I'd be careful about getting into a race, especially if you have very little bike handling experience, riding experience. And if you're anything like me, I made this mistake early on where I was very excited and ambitious and wanted to gain as much racing experience as I possibly could. The problem was, why am I on manual focus? I should be on autofocus. 1 second. There we go, that's better. Now, the reason that I would avoid this, or let's say recommend against this, is because you don't have a lot of skill right now. And that's not a bad thing. You have to understand that racing is a skill set. And of course, the more you practice that skill set, the better you'll get at it. However, I think, personally, before you should acquire the skill set of racing, you need to acquire the basics of bike handling. Because trust me, racing can get very unsafe. And there are a lot of people who are willing to jeopardize safety in order to win. And depending on who you are, if you're single and don't have a lot of tie downs in your life, you may be willing to make that sacrifice as well. Others are taking up cycling after having families. Maybe you have kids, you already have commitments. The last thing that you need is a debilitating injury. So be careful about racing. I'm not saying don't race. I think it's a good thing to race. I think that experience is really worthwhile. Say choose your races wisely and don't get into races that attract a lot of people who are willing to fight you in order to guarantee a spot. What time is it? 4:56 a.m. still. Okay, the second thing I wish I knew as a beginner cyclist is that pain is a warning sign. Now, I'm coming from a background of strength training for around 8 years before I got into cycling. And there was 2 kinds of pain, really. Pain like no pain, no gain, and pain in the sense of, something's wrong, like this should not be hurting. And I guess the same thing can apply to cycling, but you need to understand how to differentiate that pain. And when your body is experiencing new stimulus that you've never experienced before, it can be hard to differentiate that pain from productive versus unproductive. So I'll hopefully be able to provide you with a list of what's productive and what's unproductive. Productive pain is the pain that conceptually will move you forward, will make you stronger, will make you better. It's the burning in your legs when you're pushing above your threshold. It's the huffing and puffing. It's the heart, moving as it will. Unproductive pain is pain that does not make you stronger or better. Now, sometimes that's going to be there because, especially as a beginner cyclist, you're entering a new sport. And anytime you enter a new sport, a new discipline, your body takes time to react, to adapt, to, let's say, adapt the tissues, adapt the muscle fibers, adapt the joints, the tendons, the ligaments. You're putting your bodies in different positions. Literally, one of the best ones I can think of here is lower back pain. You go from sitting like this 90% of the time to now hunched over with a curve in your lumbar spine. You're going to experience back pain as a beginner cyclist. There's ways to mute this and make it a little bit better, but it's almost like a rite of passage. At some point, your body will adapt, it will become easier to deal with, and at some point, with enough riding volume, that back pain will go away. I would consider it both productive and unproductive. Productive because you are adapting the tissues to those positions and to create force and push load through the body in those positions. Unproductive because it's back pain at the end of the day. Is it making you a faster cyclist? Probably not. And by the way, if you are interested, I have a 60-something page document for cyclists who want to lose weight and get faster on the bike in less than 4 hours a week. It's called the Lean Cyclist Blueprint. It's like $14. Thousands of cyclists have downloaded it and it's helped so many to lose weight, to get faster. I have results also as well. I'll put the link in the description for you to go ahead and check that out. One of the things that you can do for back pain is, and you can do this for a lot of your unproductive pain, is go to a bike fitter, because they'll likely put you in a position that will allow your body to support itself better, perhaps utilizing your core engagement, better intra-abdominal pressure, and less load and stress on the lower back. You should also go to a bike fitter if you're experiencing wrist pain, elbow pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, knee pain, hip pain, ankle pain, foot pain, literally any kind of unproductive pain that is short, acute, whether it stops after you ride and it's only there present during the ride, or whether it follows you home afterwards. I always recommend going to a bike fitter early on, especially because a lot of us get very excited and buy a nice bike, but it might not be the correct bike for you. A bike fitter will help you to choose the correct bike, or if you want to keep that bike, will help you adapt that bike to fit your current positions and lifestyle and goals. Lesson number 3, the more you ride, the more you will learn. At the end of the day, any skill you want to acquire in life is just a volume game. Let's be honest. Whether you want to learn the skill of advertising, whether you want to learn the skill of writing, whether you want to learn how to ride a bike and how to ride a bike good, you have to front load your volume. The longer you take and the less often you do this, the longer it will take you to get good at it. So for example, a little bit different than riding, I'm personally learning how to fly right now. I'm getting my licenses and working towards my ATPL, which is the highest level license that you can get as a pilot. In order to do that, I have to immerse myself, front loading the volume and committing to as much volume as I possibly can. Because here's the thing that most people miss. You know, maybe you do an hour here and an hour, 2 times a week, you get a 1 hour ride in, or a 1 hour, in my case, flight in. The thing is, when you're only committing to such little volume, you are, especially in a skill-based thing like flying, forgetting a lot. And so there's this cost of relearning that's going to creep up. The same thing applies for cycling. The less you do it, the more relearning you're going to have to do. The slower you will acquire the skills, the slower you will acquire the experience, and the more likely it is that you will stay at your current level of fitness, skills, experience, etc. My personal recommendation is immerse yourself into it for a season, however much you can afford, where you ride a lot. And volume, you gotta be careful here, because when you are riding a lot, this will take me into point number 4, but when you are riding a lot, you have to have the correct kinds of rides and the correct kind of volume so that you don't overstress the body, overtrain, and push your body too hard, too fast in a short period of time. That is a risk, but I am an advocate for immersing yourself into the thing that you want to improve at. Which takes me into point number 4. Volume must be paired with intensity and frequency. And the more you can manipulate those 3 variables, which are effectively your training load, the better you will become in the long run. So what is a training load? Training load is, really put simply, how much training you are doing. And the thing is, this needs to be changed as you're getting better. If I'm only ever committing to a 1 hour ride 2 times a week for my entire life, I'm going to plateau at some point. So to avoid plateaus, to keep improving, you need to manipulate that training load. And it's made up of the 3 variables we just touched on: volume, frequency, and intensity. And when you can manipulate those 3 things, perhaps some weeks increasing the volume, some weeks increasing the intensity, some weeks you are increasing frequency and decreasing the other 2, or vice versa. Working with a coach can really help here. And if you are interested, I have an insanely expensive coaching program, which I'm happy to walk you through. It's not for everyone. It is, however, for the right person, life-changing. But the point is, when you work with someone who's experienced, whether me or someone else, you'll be able to progress faster because they will be manipulating your training load based on what you are currently able to handle. And the cool thing about the body is it adapts, and it adapts really quickly, which is great. However, progressive overload is a prerequisite for long-term adaptation. Meaning, if you want to keep improving, you have to keep doing harder stuff. What hard stuff should you be doing is a question, because there's so many different things that you could be training. You could be training your endurance, you could be training your zone 2, your power above anaerobic threshold. You could be training your sprint, you could be training your breathing, you could be training your postures and positions. So there's a ton of things that you could be training. Again, working with a coach, I'll put the link to book a call with me down below for Ride with Purpose, because it is literally the single fastest way to fast track your progress on the bike. So what takes the average person 5 years to learn and accomplish could take you just 6 months. And the 5th thing I knew as a, The 5th thing I wish I knew as a beginner cyclist. This is a little bit more mental than it is the other points, but it's a very fine line between healthy ambition and selfish obsession, and I would be careful there. It's something I've personally struggled with, where I took a healthy ambition, something I really enjoyed, this beautiful hobby, and turned it into something so selfish, and I became so obsessed. And at certain points, obsession is a good thing. However, if you take it too far, again, anything pushed to the extreme is naturally extremist. And depending on your stage of life, if you are trying to become a pro cyclist, maybe becoming obsessed and delusional in a sense is a good thing. But if you're not trying to become a pro cyclist, don't become obsessed and delusional. You could disagree with me on this, but don't spend your entire life chasing something that you are never going to genetically get, you're not willing to make the sacrifices for, and will hurt you in the long run. So a story, so that you can probably understand what I'm talking about here. When I first started cycling, I just got so obsessed, and it went from a healthy ambition to a selfish obsession very quickly. I got so obsessed that I was spending so much time, kind of like what I said earlier, spend time on the bike, gain volume, gain experience. However, I took it to the extreme where I was now spending the equivalent of like 20 to 30 hours a week on the bike, which is a part-time job, if not approaching full-time job. I was losing time with my family. When I wasn't cycling, all I was thinking about was cycling. I had goals to become a pro cyclist. My poor wife, bro. My business went downhill because instead of spending time servicing clients, getting new clients, advertising, marketing, doing my sales, doing client fulfillment, what was I doing? Cycling. And so naturally, when it begins to invade other parts of your life and take away from the fruitfulness of those other parts of your life, you need to put a boundary. So that's something I would be careful about, because especially with such a fun sport like this, it can be very tempting, and the line is very gray where you pass it and it becomes unhealthy. Let me give you one more bonus tip. So we'll make it 6 things I wish I knew. Please learn cycling etiquette. It is maybe the most important thing that you can do if you're ever going to be in a group ride, if you're ever going to make friends on a bike, if you are getting into cycling for the networking aspect, or even if you just want to be a semi-decent human being on the bike. Learn cycling etiquette. Now, the different cycling etiquette in different countries, I don't know. However, there are certain things that you need to do that are fundamental principles regardless. And then there are other things that may be just more so personal preferences. So those fundamental principles, communicate 100%, especially if you're in a group ride. If there's something in front of you, if there's something dangerous coming up, if there is a car behind you, if someone got a flat tire, if there is gravel on the road, communication is key. Number 2, safety. Do never put someone else's life at risk in order to go faster, get a KOM on Strava, etc. And a personal story about this, and I have, this is apparently very contrarian, and a lot of people may disagree with me on this one, but I personally think if you are doing a solo ride and another person is doing a solo ride, and that person comes and passes you as you're riding, do not try to speed up and stay on their tail and draft them so that you can save energy and go faster, because it actually ends up being unsafe. Now, I'm not saying you should never do this under any circumstances. I'm saying that if you plan to do this, which I don't recommend because it can be unsafe, especially, and this is the big caveat, if you don't, principle number 1, communicate. And this happens time and time again, especially here in the UAE in Dubai, where I'm riding, I pass someone, I wasn't expecting them to go behind me, and I'm doing my workout, and my workout has ups and downs, variabilities. Sometimes I'm pushing, sometimes I'm resting, sometimes I'm sprinting. And I look behind me and there's a guy 1 inch away from my wheel, and I had no idea he was there. He was the guy I passed 10 minutes ago. Imagine how unsafe that could be, because he's been speeding up with me, he's been slowing down with me. And if he just makes one little mistake, I don't know how good he is at cycling. If he just makes one little mistake and he hits my back wheel, we're both getting down into an accident. So the least you can do if you do want to save a little bit of energy, go a little bit faster, and draft someone and maybe make a friend is communicate. At least give a warning. At least tell them, hey, is it okay if I come behind you? They're not gonna say no. Maybe they might, but like the bad part is not communicating. Always communicate your intentions so that the other person is safe and secure, and that you are safe and secure, and we keep the sport fun. Alrighty, my friends. I hope this was helpful. Again, book a call with me down below for Ride with Purpose. It's like however many bucks, because no offense, I don't want to do free calls. I hope this was insightful for you. And if it was, I encourage you to check out one of my other videos here, 8 rules for beginner cyclists. I think it's 8, I'm not sure, but I'll link it over here. And we'll catch you next time. Ciao.